reaching into his pocket for his favorite toy. 4. I fumbled around my coat for my phone without looking. It was so much darker than the last time I had been in there, but the room seemed empty, except for my motionless body that still lay on the
let's
bed.
go to somewhere else.
I quickly...
We're on the chat. Alright, no, anywhere really. Let's go upstairs on the top floor. Fair enough. Let's go to there, I guess. Oh, what the kids and shit. Cafeteria, cool.
I laughed at myself nervously for being so ridiculously paranoid. This wasn't real after all. I mean, what was there to be scared about? It's not like anything could hurt me in here. I stopped. I looked at my shoulder. Something had dripped on it. Something black. Something that came from the ceiling. I looked up. That was when I first saw it. I don't even know how else to say it was just a thing. Imagine that really odd monster movie. What is it called? Nosferatu. Picture the monster from that movie, with arms as long as his body. Picture him without any clothes. Picture him skinny to the point where his skin is pulled horrifically tight over every bone of his mangled body. Then picture him walking like a spider, while contorting his limbs and whilst having black sludge-like fluid leaking from his mouth. That was what was crawling on my ceiling. I quickly screamed and backed up. I was horrified. I had never seen anything quite as terrifying in my life. The creature dropped onto the floor and looked directly into my eyes. His eyes were empty sockets of pure darkness. I watched in horror as the gray skin around his eyes wrinkled, as his face contorted into a smile that was twice as big as its face. It had millions of tiny needle-like teeth. It continued to smile at me as I lay frozen in fear. It then crawled over to my body. The way it moved seemed so artificial. It moved like it was a claymation figure. My horror was only amplified when I saw it began to drool and spit its strange black fluid all over the right leg of my body. It looked at the now blackened limb and grinned wider. I realized quickly that this had to stop. I had to wake up. I made a quick dive for my body and tried to pull myself into my body. I saw the creature lunge at me, but it just barely missed me. I woke up screaming. I winced in effort as I tried to get out of bed, but realized in horror that I couldn't. I had completely lost the ability to move my right leg. I also noticed that there was an awful searing pain on my shoulder. I quickly called 911, and I was taken to the hospital.
That Russia was an enigma wrapped in an enigma within an enigma. For most people, his words ring true to this day. Either way, Russia is the largest country in the world, and there are many interesting things, starting from vodka up to space, that every Russian can be proud of. However, with an old culture and a long history that was often very dark, Russia, even with the war in Ukraine, has gained many dark things for itself, where most Russians would like to have never seen happen. In this episode, we have compiled 10 things that Russians hide about themselves, and some mysterious. Number 10. The Cannibal Island. In the 1930s, over 6,000 people were removed from their homes and sent to a special settlement in one of the most remote parts of Siberia. This was called Nazino Island. Any people that tried to escape were shot. When the people got there was little flour to eat and hardly any tools to farm with. They were left on a cold, desolate island with virtually nothing. Within 13 weeks, 4,000 of them were dead. Some of the dead were eaten, and some people killed the weak for their flesh. Here is one account of one instance of depravity. On the island, there was a guard named Kosti Venikov, a young fellow. He fell in love with a girl who had been sent there and was courting her. He protected her. One day he had to... Here is one account of one instance of depravity. On the island, there was a guard named Kosti Venikov, a young fellow. He fell in love with a girl who had been sent there and was courting her. He protected her. One day he had to be away for a while, and he told one of his comrades, "Take care of her." They didn't. They tied her to a tree and proceeded to cut off chunks of her flesh. When the guy got back, she was still breathing, but many parts of her were gone. Hence, this place got the name Cannibal Island. The Soviets managed to keep the story secret for many years, but it got out in the end. Number 9. The Biological Chernobyl. As you know, the Soviet Union was home to some of the world's best scientists. Those scientists were sometimes hired to work on certain secret military initiatives, and that didn't always end well. One of them we now call the Biological Chernobyl, but its more formal name is the Sverdlovsk anthrax leak. In short, biological weapons were being tested at a Soviet military research facility, but on one very dark day in 1979, some anthrax escaped through the vents. That got into people's nostrils in the factory, and the wind blew to the villages nearby. Soon people started feeling really ill. Some even had blue hands, but the people in charge said it was just a really bad case of food poisoning. It's thought 66 people died, but of course the authorities tried to play that matter down. In fact, even when American spies started saying that it looked like a lab leak, the Russians just kept talking about tainted meat. This went on for years, and anyone who knew the truth was told they'd be in big trouble if they talked. When a Wall Street Journal correspondent went there in 1991 to look at records and chat with people, he came back saying what he found were stories that were riddled with inconsistencies, half-truths, and plain falsehoods. Now, for something else that the Russians didn't want anyone to know about, although hiding it was impossible. Number 8. Serial killers. With American serial killers hoarding all the Hollywood limelight, we rarely hear about Russian ones. But trust us, the country has had some of the scariest, meanest killers in the world, and arguably the worst women serial killers. Olga Konstantinovna Briskorn is right up there as one of the most prolific serial killers of all time. When you see her dressed in her fine clothes and jewelry, you don't automatically think, that woman beat peasant kids to death. In fact, she killed an estimated 128 people. She was evil, pure evil. She might have built churches. A woman of nobility who tortured and killed possibly as many as 147 peasants. Her name, Darya Nikolaevna Saltykova. In the 1700s, she was known all over Moscow for her sadism. After the death of her husband, she started taking her anger out on anyone nearby who was poor. The authorities turned a blind eye to it at the start because, hey, she was noble and the victims were mere serfs. But there was justice in the end. Enough people complained, and she ended up being convicted of her crimes. Before she was sent to prison, where she would later die, she had to stand at a busy place in Moscow with a sign around her neck that read, "This woman has tortured and murdered." Number 7. The Russian Mafia. We're sure you've all heard of the Russian Mafia. This is a serious organization that is structured similarly to the Italian Mafia, and when it comes to crime, they have fingers in just about all the crime pies. It's said that throughout the world, the Russian Mafia has 100,000 members with about 18,000 leaders. But who's the boss? That's hard to say, but a name that often comes up is Simun Mogilevich. His vast criminal enterprises, according to the FBI, make him the most dangerous mobster in the world. Much of his work is done with men in suits, and could be said to be white-collar crime. Although the experts say he also has a lot of blood on his hands. As a former anti-organized crime expert in the U.S. once said, I can tell you that Simun Mogilevich is as serious an organized criminal as I have ever encountered, and I am confident that he is responsible for contract killings, but he looks so harmless, especially compared to those tattooed guys.
You cannot get away like you can get away.
Number 6, tattoos. Number 6, tattoos. What the Russian gang tattoos mean is complicated. For example, the Madonna and Child must be a sign the wearer of the tattoo has been in prison since childhood, or it might mean loyalty to a gang. A cross down the chest usually signifies that the person embraces the thieves-in-law traditions and does not betray the rules of that tradition. Various other tattoos will show what kind of criminal you are, how many successes you've had, maybe the people you've killed, or how long you've been behind bars. But if you have these tattoos and you are lying about the actions behind them, you could either die or, according to one expert, be forced to take them off with a knife, sandpaper, a shard of glass, or a lump of brick. But we guess you all want to know what these stars mean. The ones that sometimes appear on the arms, chest, or on the knees. An 8-pointed star near the shoulders could mean this person has a lot of authority. And if on the knees, that could mean this person kneels to no one. Some interesting ones are a snake around the neck, designating a drug addiction. One guy had eyes just above his waist, which was said to have meant that he was homosexual. Skulls sometimes mean the person has murdered, and the strange one of a girl catching her dress with a fishing line means the prisoner has committed a serious crime against a woman. As for a picture of a dagger going through the neck, that means this guy has killed someone in prison and will do it again if he is paid. Spiders are also interesting, since a spider moving upwards means someone is still active in a life of crime, but if the spider is going down, the person has given up the criminal life. Now, for a Russian that went to prison and came out fighting. Number 5, Pepsi Exchange. It was the 1980s, and Russia wanted some of that delicious, obesity-causing drink, Pepsi Cola. Russian money wasn't accepted, so instead, Pepsi agreed to exchange vodka for the drink, and a lot of vodka. Then the Russians said, okay, how about instead we give you 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer? In return, they got $3 billion worth of Pepsi. You might have heard that this made PepsiCo the 6th biggest navy in the world, and while in sheer numbers, that isn't far from the truth. The ships weren't useful and mostly went to scrapyards. The deal was more about business relations between the two nations at a time when communism was coming to an end. As Foreign Policy wrote, PepsiCo was more a middleman than a maritime power. Number 4, Dead of Laika. Russia didn't just put the first man in space, it also put the first dog in space. Its name was Laika. At age 2 in 1957, she went up on the satellite Sputnik 2. Before that, she was one of a number of stray dogs that were taken off the streets and joined the Soviet spaceflight program. They only chose female dogs because it was considered that girl pooches dealt better with small spaces. She trained as a cosmonaut, being spun around in a centrifuge, and practiced eating jellied food. The Soviets reported that she lasted close to 7 days in space, and then was purposefully poisoned. But many years later, the truth came out. Laika actually only survived a few hours. Apparently, the exertion of going up and the subsequent weightlessness was too much for her. Number 3, the passenger plane sky crash. When 2 Russian passenger planes crashed together in the sky in 1979, the first thought of the big wigs was to try and suppress the news. It wasn't a good look. It made Russian aviation look bad, but it really was a rookie mistake by controllers that led to two Tu-134 planes to smack into each other, killing 178 people. But the news was hard to suppress because 17 of the fatalities were part of a professional Uzbek soccer team called Paktakor Football Club. Number 2. Stalin Parties. In Robert Service's Stalin biography, he paints a pretty bad picture of Stalin, even though he does mention that Stalin was very well read and no doubt showed a lot of determination throughout his life. He writes that Stalin often used to throw parties for his officials, but at times, these weren't fun at all. They were to check people out, to see how much they drank or didn't drink, or if they blurted stuff out while loaded. Meanwhile, Stalin would take notes, and sometimes after a party, a person could be whisked off to a gulag or just fired. This kind of paranoia was exposed recently in a British satirical movie called Death of Stalin. Russia's cultural minister called it despicable, boring, repugnant, and insulting, and banned it. Still, many Russians absolutely love it. Number 1. The Cosmic Couplings. In the year 2000, you might have read a story about cosmic couplings, a project between Russia and the U.S. involving people having sex in space to figure out how zero-gravity sex would work and if it was sustainable if more humans went to space. That story was apparently a hoax. But let's face it, humans are humans, and a long stint in space might be hard when you have to bottle up your sexual feelings and impulses. U.S. astronauts have always been a bit coy when talking about sex in space, or even secretly beating the beaver, but you can trust a Russian cosmonaut to tell you how it is. The cosmonaut, Valery Polikov, kept a diary, and in it, he bared the truth about how he felt up there. He wrote, "Psychological Support Service sent us some nice, colorful movies, which helped to recover our will to act like a normal adult male. There is something to be ashamed of."
Now you have years, the Southern Canal. Trying to escape the spawn region of the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft is not always easy, but one of the largest public works projects in Minecraft history has made it much easier throughout the years. The Southern Canal, a massive man-made river stretching for hundreds of thousands of blocks. Since construction on it began over 8 years ago, it has helped many players escape the digital wasteland. But exactly how long has it become? Since we've explored every other highway for a video, a lot of you are asking me to finally travel the last one. Today we're paddling the entire historic Southern Canal on 2B2T, witnessing the ruins, the bases still intact, as well as some of the other strange oddities we come across. I don't even know how far the canal goes in the present day, so this is going to be a very interesting journey. Before we get started, a big shout out to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Whether I'm lifting or climbing in the gym, Raycons have been my go-to earbuds. The new everyday earbuds have an improved look and feel by using optimized gel and up to 15 other. I actually traveled this canal for a video over 6 years ago, and back then, it only went a little over 25k. My journey began at spawn as I prepared for the long trip ahead. Using one of my alt accounts, I gave myself only a few necessities for the journey, nothing too crazy. I made my way south of 00 until I reached the start of the canal. It was time to see how far it went in the present day. The canal was much wider than I remembered it, and had a series of obsidian dams and barriers that had been built to stop redstone machines from griefing it, which is actually pretty clever. The first few thousand blocks were pretty uneventful, but at 4K, I found a small rest stop. A player named Godroster had left a chest full of cookies for travelers. A nice little surprise. I only took one and continued on. I quickly ran into a giant obsidian skull, which I was hoping would not be a bad omen. Every town I passed was destroyed. It would definitely be a while before we found one intact. Obsidian survives at spawn much longer than other blocks, which is why so many people build with it here. I continued on, going past and underneath massive lava casts. when I was almost to the 10K milestone, I found something very bizarre. The entire area had been covered in cobblestone slabs, and when I say entire area, I mean everything. It was a really bizarre sight. I found a signboard and identified it as the Valley of Slabs, an obvious parody of the server's Valley of Wheat. It was pretty wacky, but it was an enjoyable pit stop. Just like in real life, sometimes you need weird things right off the highway to keep you sane on long trips. Shortly after, I had reached the 10K milestone, a giant castle made out of obsidian. Overall, it was still in great shape, and if you were a new player, you would definitely find some valuables here. After a quick look around, I moved on, but only a few moments later, I came across a section currently under repair. It would still be possible to paddle, but it was going to be bumpy. I found myself navigating the rapids, trying to make sure my boat didn't sink. It was actually pretty fun trying to keep it afloat, as you wouldn't be paddling something like this under normal conditions. I quickly made it to the other side, where I was able to continue normally. The settlements I passed were still pretty destroyed, though I did find the first actual farm of the trip. It only took 12,000 blocks. Resources were also becoming more common alongside the canal. After the 15K milestone, there was another rest stop filled with cookies. Whoever this God roster person was definitely had some dedication. After traveling past more ruins, I came across yet another roadside gimmick, the door to nowhere. Nearby were the signs of travelers giving 10 out of 10 reviews. Truly a life-changing experience. Further on down the canal were more remains of old settlements, and it didn't seem to be getting any better. Eventually, I reached the 25K milestone, which was very important, as it meant I was getting closer to where I had originally ended my journey 6 years ago. I began to look for visual clues that I could use to line up the screenshots, as I couldn't remember the exact coordinates. I kept seeing familiar landmarks that were still intact from all those years ago, and through careful observation, I was able to find the exact location where the canal ended in my original video, just a few blocks shy of 27K. With the past finally behind me, it was time to move forward. Even at this distance, the canal was still very wide and lined with obsidian non-stop, so the Southern Canal Corps had definitely put in work over the years. With uninterrupted paddling, I quickly made it to 30K, but I didn't stay long. Most of the landscape was still pretty destroyed and there was plenty of danger lurking about. Around 32K, the canal suddenly became skinnier, but was still easily traversable. Instead of being solid obsidian, it was now in alternating rows to help save on time and resources, which makes sense. Despite the canal getting smaller, there were still resources to be found. Eventually, I came across checkerboard snow in a desert biome, showing how much world generation had changed over the years. I made it to 40K, and whatever this milestone used to be was now unrecognizable. Afterwards, I had my first encounter with ice on the canal, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Eventually, the obsidian barriers disappeared, and I was met with a fake 50K milestone that someone had made as a joke. The real one was in rough shape, having been griefed, but was still cool to look at. Moving forward, farms were becoming more common, and I did my best to replant when I could. Around 52,000, I came across the first actual intact house I had seen on the entire journey so far. I was hoping this would be the first of many more.
Every moment is vital, because you are vital.
Eventually, the canal would hit open ocean, and there were old chunk border bases to be seen. Not long after the 60K milestone, the sea level actually changed due to newer world generation. This is something we've seen on the other highways as well. The 69K milestone was about what you would expect, but not long after, there was a problem. Eventually, a cold biome caused the canal to freeze over entirely. Now, normally this would be fine, but when I tried putting my boat on the solid ice, I couldn't. It just would not let me place it. If you saw my most recent video, because of an exploit, the server has made it harder to place boats on solid blocks that are not liquid water. And since I didn't have a water bucket on me, I had to portage my boat on foot. So I ended up walking past the 70K milestone before finally being able to paddle again. Soon after, I came across a small outpost which didn't have anything of value, but the anvils would be useful for new players escaping spawn. Farther down, around 82K, I found something I was not expecting. In front of me stood the ruins of an old tower. There were withers near the bottom, but on the very top, for no reason, there was a fully intact taco truck. Most players boating by would have completely missed this, and if it weren't for the withers at the bottom, I would have gone up to it myself. But talk about a pleasant surprise. As I continued down the canal, I kept running into strange builds, as well as more rest stops, including one of the largest watermelon farms I had seen yet, the quintessential Tutti food. It was all very enjoyable, and as 100K approached, the obsidian barriers had disappeared, so it was finally some smooth sailing. I was getting ready for the milestone when, to my surprise, at 99K was a completely intact base. A hotel, appropriately named Hotel 99. And it wasn't just for show, it was a legitimate hotel, with rooms, beds, lounge area, everything. The entire exterior was coated in anvils for protection, and I was shocked that something right on the canal could be so pristine. I took a look at the message board up top, still in disbelief that this thing was still standing. Keeping in tradition, I decided to jump off the top into the water below. It was a wonderful find, but I continued making my way to 100K. And I can't lie, it was kind of a letdown when I finally arrived there. But hey, we had gone 100,000 blocks so far, all in a boat. There was a rest stop not far away, so I actually logged out there. Now, in real life, I spent the next few days at TwitchCon, meeting up with fellow Minecraft friends and griefers. But when I returned, I continued my journey. I still had so many questions. How far did the canal go? What else would we find? Why are some people watching this video without being subscribed to my channel? All of these ran through my head, but I continued. I was now running into actual towns, and judging by the grass, they had only been built recently, but for every one that was still standing, there were plenty that weren't. Regardless, the actual landscape seemed more natural at this distance, with far less griefing. The 125K milestone turned the canal into a massive pool with large obsidian pillars all around. At this distance, even the ruins we came across were more intact than before, but there would often be long periods of time where you'd be paddling the canal and there would be nothing on the sides other than wilderness. After hitting 155K, I soon found myself in another recently built town not far down the canal. Instead of grass, this one used mycelium, but still had plenty of trees and resources. Eventually, the canal cut through another cold biome, but this time used a tunnel to prevent the canal from freezing over. As I started getting close to 200K, I encountered a unique base that was built right on the canal itself. The bridges had colorful banners hanging from them, and it seemed like a very comfy place. It definitely takes courage to make something like this and put it right on top of the canal itself. I took a quick look around, but continued forward. As I approached the milestone, the canal suddenly turned into a series of twists and turns. From far away, it was actually a massive work of art dedicated to the builders of the Southern Canal, and it was very creative. The best part was, it was still possible to paddle through it. Near the end, I took a look at the signboard to see who else had passed by this awesome creation. Not far away lay the remains of the 200K milestone. At this point, it was simply impressive that the canal was still going, and that there were plenty of intact builds to be seen alongside it. Other than stopping to see the view every so often, I continued onwards. I can't imagine the amount of hours it must have taken to even bring the canal this far. Sometimes you would find broken chests of all the materials the Canal Corps had dug
Just
out.
wondering, do you
Alongside
want to
more
do my
works of
club
art,
after
plenty of
stuff?
builds were covered in
Sure,
lava
I guess so.
casts.
What club
The
is it
canal
called?
passed through a variety of
Anime
different
club.
biomes at this distance, showing
Yes,
how
I
modern
fucking
the
love
world
anime.
generation had become.
That one.
I began noticing more and more boats
Welcome
gathered
to the
around
anime
nether
club.
portals,
Okay.
implying that other travelers had ended their journeys here, and I was starting to see why. I was going long distances between the ruins and towns at this point, so anytime there was one, I did my best to stop. After many hours of paddling, I ended up making it to 300,000 blocks. The milestone wasn't much to see, but I was just stunned the canal had gone on this long. I really wasn't expecting it to go this far. Around 308,000, I actually found signs claiming it was the end of the canal, but they were from over 2 years ago. It sounded like we still had a long way to go. It was around this point that the canal lost its obsidian floor and was starting to become more basic. In some places it was only 1 block deep, and in others there was no obsidian on the sides at all. I eventually made it to the 333,000 milestone, and obsidian guardrails were the only thing keeping me on track. Despite the canal becoming more basic, there were still plenty of builds out here, with many in great shape. I even found a random ski hill with a functional jump. This was the only time on the entire journey I got to use my elytra. It was a fun pit stop. At this distance, you would often go 20 or 30k without finding something major, but when you did, it was a sight for sore eyes. But I'm not going to lie, at this distance, I was starting to lose my mind a little bit. But around 395k, I found the first major clue that we might be getting close to the end. A base had been set up by God Roster, the same person that had placed the cookies near the start of the canal. It seemed they had been working on this section of the canal only a few weeks ago. I started racing forward, finding more and more of God Roster's repair stations. I even found a large temple that had recently been built. This was some major activity, so we had to be getting close to the end. I made it to the 400,000 milestone when suddenly I heard something. A note block being played. I managed to locate it underground. Some nearby signs informed me that a group called the SCA had been responsible for extending the canal past 320k, and the signs were not even 2 weeks old. This was it. We were in the end game. I raced forward, and soon I came across another colorful repair station. This was a clear pattern going on, but upon entering a frozen biome, there it was, the end of the Southern Canal, at exactly 410,000 blocks. An incredible achievement for all builders involved, including the newer ones too. I got out for some celebratory fireworks to light things up, and to end it all, I finally ate my cookie. It just goes to show that on a server with no rules, anything is possible with enough effort and...
Anyways, I'm gonna play this. First time, doing no research, there's a man going straight in, eyes closed. I'm just in my house right now, it's good. Got a nice little chair, beautiful TV. You come out here, you got revolver bullets. Okay. What do you got here? A knife? What's this? Flashlight? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, so... Yeah. Not gonna go in that door. That's, no need to go in there. A plunger. Then you got some bags of trash. Why do I have this in the house? Oh! It's raid-in time. The sponsor of this video, Raid Shadow, now on October 27th, and you'll get the ultimate death knight. It's very simple. The best part about all this is that he's free. This guy right here, he's Raid's most beloved character. He's a funny guy with aspirations of becoming a powerful hero.
Hey, you get me.
This guy's great, but you know what? You want the ultimate Death Knight on your team instead.
How dare you?
Look how cool this thing is. Hey, this guy reminds me of Robert. I call this guy Robert now. You definitely want to use a man like this, right? I'll tell you right now why. He increases the squad's defense by 30% and completely blocks one hit, decreasing the damage by 0 when one of the allies is attacked. The champion has an amazing skill called Rats Off to ya. It's an AoE skill. It is a tribute to Mr. Nibbles, the pet of the OG Death Knight. Overall, you know, this guy, he's a good man right here. There's never been a better time to start playing Raid. New players can use my link or scan the QR code right here and get started with a pack worth almost $30, a free champion, and also this cool in-game loot. Hey, thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. Okay. Oh! Okay. What's got? Oh! Got a man in there. It's locked. Okay, keep it locked. Dead people in here. Call elevator. I need the power. Okay, I need the power on. You can hear him. Okay. How am I getting this power on? The janitor in room 701 or the laundry room in 702. What room is this? 705? 704? What's it? 703? 702. Okay. Oh, there's the janitor. How's it going? Oh, he's sticky. What do you say? Oh! Try to run by him. Okay. Crouch, what are you doing? Okay. Don't be doing stuff like that.
Are we at war?
We don't know his name. Money, weapons.
Don't be doing stuff like that.
Shouldn't have gone.
Oh. Why is there just revolver bullets everywhere? Hey, there's the key. Oh. Hey, how's it going? Just gonna walk right past you for a second? You relax. Sterile key, okay. Is this a sledgehammer?
Lovely baby. Lovely too.
Press button. Oh! Was that guy in here the whole time? Oh my... What are you doing? Why? He's huge. Is the power on now? Okay, what's going on here? This is the guy? Okay. Okay, you see something like that. Look at that. Ooh. Why does he look like that? Look at this man. Okay. I got fish. How's it going? Hello? Oh. Whoever's reading this, please listen. You have to shoot them in the head. Nothing else will stop them. I don't have a gun. Oh, revolver. Okay. Okay. Oh! Okay. Okay. Oh! Let me still reload here. Okay, just waste all 5 bullets, that's good. Just throw them right on the ground. We got this thing coming up to us. Press the button.
Actually, why not smoke weed in an anime club? Is the windows open? Yeah, it is. Cool, let's go down there. I'll see you guys when I'm at the anime club. Gang gang. It's the anime club. Cool. God damn. Toy gun moving. Yep. Cool. Through here. Okay. Cool. Since the window is open, let's smoke some weed. Yeah. Spray.
Okay, there we go. Is it the power? Oh! I don't know if this is turning the power on. I don't know what this is doing. That looks like the power. You can see if there's light.
With the new Google Pixel 7 Pro,
Macro
macro focus makes tiny details epic, and super res zoom gets you close-up quality from far away. The Google Pixel 7 Pro from $12.99.
Oh, there's a hole in the ground now. Okay, not going to the elevator. Oh! Mr. Spooky! Okay, hold on. I guess the guy's on a mission. Oh, Mr. Spooky can't leave, eh? Nick. Okay, see you later. Whoa! Not need to see that. Why am I so small? Like, look at this fridge.